Hello, everyone. Welcome to the third episode of Outsourced CFO's Most Common Gap Analysis Risks. My name is Uwais Asmal, and I'm the Head of Advisory at Outsourced CFO. As a company, we've performed many financial gap analysis reports, for many different companies over the years. And what we've come to realize is that the same issues keep cropping up. So this episode and series is to chat to you more about those things that keep repeating itself in the hope that you can fix them on your side. Lack of procedures. Sometimes there are no documented internal controls or standard operating procedures. All the information is stuck inside employees' heads. And then generally what happens is if an employee leaves and generally what happens is there's no handover process, all that information is gone, and whoever starts, or if the entrepreneur has to take it over, they start from scratch trying to figure out what did they do, how did they do it, and that opens you up to risk, because if you make mistakes, that could result in outflows, or it could just be a waste of your time, and entrepreneur's time is precious. We cannot be wasting entrepreneurs' time. So implementing internal controls and having standard operating procedures is very important. Another thing also that's not in place is service level agreements with suppliers and with customers. It's very important, especially in difficult times. At least there's a minimum service delivery that either you need to provide your customer, or that your supplier needs to provide to you, so that you can provide your service properly. Look into having proper service level agreements in place. Revenue. Sometimes some companies are reliant on 3 customers or 4 customers. If that one customer pulls out, all of a sudden the whole business model gets thrown upside down, and the company may even need to liquidate because they cannot cover their costs, or they've not priced their revenue correctly, which also could result in the company having to shut down. People prefer to have a revenue that is consistent, as opposed to big lumpy revenue that you might have this month and you might not have next month. So they look for that retainer type revenue. And then HR. What we find out is that some companies don't use any professional HR resources, which could result in lots of issues going to the CCMA, having to go to the CCMA because things are not drawn up in terms of the law. To avoid that, it's best to consult with, you don't even have to have someone in-house, but there are many outsourced options to have in terms of HR professionals. Sometimes there are no contracts in place with employees. And when there are disputes, the CCMA is not going to look at the company. The CCMA is going to give preference to the employee, because it's you as a company's responsibility to have those contracts in place. Some contracts are in place, but they're not in compliance with the Basic Conditions of Employment Act. And that's a massive problem, because again, if it doesn't comply and you end up at the CCMA, you as a company might have to pay up a lot more than you plan to pay up if your employee has an issue, or thinks he was unfairly dismissed. Some staff are not rewarded appropriately. For example, they may have a salary, but they're not incentivized to do more, and that could be the reason why your business is not growing. If you could link their salary, maybe on a commission basis, to the sales they make, that it's a win-win situation. You earn more revenue, and the employee earns more money. So it's something to look into. Another thing that's also not is improper segregation of duties. And what that means is, when the company is small, you've got everybody doing everything, and that's fine when they're small. As soon as the company starts growing bigger, you need to start implementing segregation of duties. If you rely on one person to do more than one, for example, load the payments, approve the payments, if you were the entrepreneur and you're approving it, that's okay. But once your organization starts growing bigger, you want to avoid these fraud risks, to avoid any fraudulent payments. Also, the reliance on individual. If you're relying on 1 or 2 key employees, you need to make sure that there's a proper standard operating procedures in place. If they were to get hit by a bus tomorrow, what are you going to do? Are you able to get someone to take over those responsibilities, or are you going to be stuck for a few weeks time to figure out how they were doing their job? Thanks for listening. Make sure to tune into the next episode.
Hey, Lau here, one of the founders of Outsourced CFO. If you enjoyed this video, make it official. Click subscribe.